Scrappy Peep, Suzanna here today for Ellie's Studio, and I'm sharing with you a birthday layout that I used with the March kit, creating some shaker pockets. So I'm going to show you how I use the digitals first. So what we want to do is we want to take these balloons and we want to create an outline as well as a base so that we can create a shaker pocket. So we are going to go to our library and we're going to open the balloons, double click on that. I like to work on a 12 by 12 palette. It's just something that I do. So I'm going to drop down to 12 by 12 and that's just going to create my whole page there. So I'm going to click on the balloons or the image and they're all linked. I like to go to release compound path. It means a lot more when you're working with words. It's not so much relevant here where you've got just the balloons, which are just an outline shape. And so then from here, I'm going to go over to this little star icon here, which opens the offset panel. And I'm going to click on the image so that that is what's going to create the offset. I want an outside offset, not an internal offset. And I know from having worked with this file that I want the sharp corners and not the rounded corners. And the reason I want the sharp corners with this balloon is it just creates a cleaner line at the bottom of the balloon, the ties, to be able to work with. I also want this to be 0.01, and then I'm just going to hit apply. Then I'm going to take my cursor and I'm going to left click and highlight so that all of the squares are there because I want to create an outline of that, and I am going to right click, which gives me that drop down, and do make compound path. So now you can see I have the outline of that. So then I'm going to right click and duplicate because I want the same size background for the balloon to be able to have the sequence to sit on. Now I'm going to go back to that right click, release compound path, and I'm going to click on the inside, hit delete, inside, hit delete, inside, hit delete on each one so that that is now the same shape as the outside there. So I now have my inside, my outline of the balloon, which will fit perfectly on top of this to create the shaker pocket. I like to keep them linked, and so I'm going to go back to group. You could do compound path if you wanted to, but that way if I want to resize them, what I will do is I can keep them all together. So you can see these are all together, these are all together as a group. Then if I want to resize them, I highlight both. I go to my transform option. The second one in is scale, and then I will choose what size I want. So here, if I want to go, I don't want 200%, that's too much, but if I wanted to make them bigger, let's go 150%. You type that in and hit apply. That way you have coordinating sizes that work together. Then you can ungroup them. So what I did, because I hit different colors, I just click away. So I go to here and I go to release compound path. But now I have to group that, group that, group that, but they're the same size. And then these are connected too, so we go to ungroup. So that way what I did was I want that balloon, which goes with this one here, so I can cut them in different colors, and I wanted this balloon with its coordinating size down here, and then I can put the 4 different papers on my mat and cut it all at the same time. So I'll just drag those off the cutting area, go to send, it's ready, and then just hit send, and that's what I would do. I did one with foam, and now I'm going to actually, because I didn't like the foam, it got really sticky, So I'm going to use this shape. I actually like working in design. It's a lot easier. Right click, duplicate, and I'm going to cut 4 of those out in, and I can actually have gone over here. Actually, it's this one and done replicate times 4, but I'm used to doing this. Whoops, duplicate, and I'm going to cut 4 of those out so that I can try and not use the foam, and hopefully you will see less of it, and that will create a depth for. So now we have the pieces and it's time to assemble the shaker. So I have glued this with my Ultra Bond onto a piece of acetate or a clear transparency. Either one works just fine. And I'm just using my fussy cut scissors to just trim around the edge, or my detail scissors from Fiskars. Literally kind of just getting all of the clear out. And if you don't, it's clear, so if you don't get all of it, it's not perfect. Honestly, I don't worry about it, me personally. So that is going to be your top layer. I'm going to wipe that with the anti-static pouch from Ranger, and then I'm going to glue 4 of these heavy cardstock outlines together, and that is going to be what I'm going to use instead of the foam that I referenced earlier. And this is going to create the depth so that the sequins can actually shake and move in the shaker. So there's 4 layers. I'm going to glue them together, just literally sit all on top of each other, and those will provide the walls of the shaker there. There's all 4 stuck together, and now we're going to assemble the pocket. So I'm going to put adhesive directly onto the acetate there, and then glue that on top of the outline. That is going to give me the pocket to stick the sequins in. Now, that is the top of the sequins, and I don't know, different people like their sequins different ways, but I like my sequins cup up, so I'm putting it so that it's cup down, because I now have the top of the shaker down to my work surface. So what I should have done is stuck my finger onto the static pouch every time I reached in, because I'm dealing with a lot of static here. But you see that pouch there, and I'll learn my lesson in a minute and wipe my fingers on there. See how the sequence just kind of jumps? And this is sequence from Spiegelman scraps from forever ago when I used to design for them. I have a ton of sequence, and I like actually colors. Making my own mixes. Jody has some great mixes, but usually I end up working tone on tone like I'm doing here, and so I always break down these mixes. So now I want to put the backing on this, and I have chosen to use, again, I'm working tone on tone, so I've used one of the birthday stack cardstocks. There we go. So we've got a tall balloon, and then I did the purple one off camera. So this is actually a scrap lift layout. On Thursday, Natalie and I scrapped lift, and actually it was my own layout. So it was a layout that I shared this time last year. And so I'm going to do that as a birthday layout. And I've done it a little bit differently this year, because instead of, I still have the vertical and the horizontal elements as they were, but I changed up where the photos were, and I made the layout a little bit larger. So I'm using the birthday cards, journaling cards, and I'm showing you there how I still have the same shapes, they're just a little bit larger. And I want to incorporate these shakers, balloons, into the layout to just work on that celebratory feel. I have those large acetate numbers because he just turned 18, which is a big birthday. So of course you have to celebrate big, right? Big balloons and big numbers. And these are the wood veneers, and I'm going to put them down the page, kind of cascading down the page, kind of like you would think of a marble drop, right? If you drop the marble down there, it creates flow and movement across the layout there. And so it's not contiguous, but you get the idea, just like with the marble drop, right? You can have those long drops. So also on the inspirational layout, there are some labels that are off to the side, some extra embellishments, and so I'm going to do that with the labels from the March labels, as well as there are labels that always come as die cuts in the kit, and so I'm going to use those as well. There are some fun little sayings, speech bubbles. One of them says XO, and it is in the same color palette that I'm working with, as well as happy, and I'm going to pop those up on some foam on my layout. I'm also going to put some of these fun balloons. I know I've already got a lot of balloons on the page, but I just like the way that putting these other balloons in adds some added texture to it. So on the right hand side of the layout, the original layout, there are, I want to say that it's, I don't have it in front of me, but there's some other things there, and so I will also put some added embellishments. So not very masculine colors that I'm working with, but it's okay because there's a bright pops of yellow in the pictures, and so I really like the way that the yellow works with the red and the green and purple. Not colors that I would normally work with, but that birthday card up the top right there, I've already used on a previous layout, again, of my boy, and so I really wanted to incorporate these balloons, and I knew I wanted to use these shakers using the die cut, and so that's why I went with this color palette, and it works fine. Colors, we choose to make them boy colors or girl colors, and so I think this just works perfectly. I love those chipboard candles over there on the right hand side, because he has got his cake in front of him that's lit. It's a perfect way of integrating that in. So I didn't realize until I did, completely forgot until I did my edit of my video here, that I actually made this a flip up so that I had room for journaling. It's a very busy page, and while I could have journaled in the white space above the balloon, I like that white space because it's such a busy page. So having that flip up there underneath the happy birthday to you card gave me space to be able to journal in there. And I just wanted to journal what the cake was, where it was from, and how we celebrated, how it was still COVID and all of that fun stuff. I don't know why some of these cards I decide to save and some of them I don't. I think some of them had sayings or things that I knew I would use, whereas the stripes that are behind the balloons, I knew those are a dime a dozen. I have stacks and stacks of LA Studio 3x4 cards, and so I don't know why I feel the need to save bits and pieces of them, but sometimes I think I have projects in mind. So because this is a shaker and I want this firmly adhered down, I am using some tape from Thermo Web. I really like this double-sided tape. You can tear it. You don't have to use your scissors. And I am attaching the baker's twine using that so that it stays very secure. I have to remember not to attach this to the card because it is a flip up card. As it is, the journal card is very close to that wood veneer, but you can still flip it up. There you go. And so I want that string to dangle with movement, and so I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to just put little blobs of adhesive there to hold the flow of the baker's twine that I want there. So I have decided that this is how everything is going to go, and so I can go ahead and continue to adhere the layers on top of layers that I've already got there. So this is a scrap lift of myself, so be sure to head over to the Elle Studio blog and see how Natalie scrap lifted me from last year. She did a traveler's notebook page, and it is a super layout. So this is what I was referencing earlier about using the little bits of glue to just hold the movement in the twine there. While I'm holding that down, I'm going to go ahead and adhere some other things as well as the acrylic balloons. I always get acetate and acrylic mixed up. So the acrylic balloons come in some great colors, sort of more of those primary colors, but I'm using the ones that work with my layout here. I went with gray for the twine because it's sort of a neutral color that integrates into that. I didn't want black, that was too heavy, and I didn't want any of the colors that I'm already using because it's already pretty dominant with that, and so this was just a nice neutral color to anchor the balloons with there. So that will be the bulk of the layout, and it's just going in and putting in some finer details to the layout. I have not journaled. You know, I'm trying really hard to get this child of mine to journal, but he is not a kid of many words, either spoken or written, to be honest. And so I have to catch him at the right moment. But worst comes to worst, I will do the journaling, and that's absolutely fine. You know, sometimes the the kids knowing our side of the stories would be interesting for them too. So more of these awesome birthday chipboard stickers, happy birthday chipboard stickers. Those are just little presents. And again, they add little pops of color and make the labels a little bit more interesting, I think, to the layout. And they kind of fill in those spaces as well. They're nice space fillers. So yeah, that is going to pretty much wrap up the layout. I am going to, in a minute, get one of my gold Nouveau pens, and I will go over the flames of the candle with that, and just give that a little bit of sparkle. So you got the sparkle in the sequins as well as the sparkle in the candle there. And again, just those little finishing touches. So be sure to head over to Ellie's studio and pick up some of these amazing birthday goodies. There's also some really great stamps and coordinating metal dies for alphas that I absolutely love. I've used them a ton. Enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Come back again soon. Take care.